for Liverpool. He was mates with Beardo. And he said, you need a rap here. Huh. It was his idea. And then I wrote that rap.
The most famous rap in British
history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wrote that rap in the studio on the day. And on the day, getting them to sing it was just hilarious. Anyway, none of them can do it. They're absolutely useless, right? Gazza plots up, and he's late. And he comes in, he's got 3 bottles of champagne. He's driven in a Merc, an England courtesy car Merc. Proceeded to down 3 bottles of shampoo over the afternoon. And gets up, like, Gazza, it's your go. Give it a go. And pop cover on the microphone. First thing you hear him going, Beardo's your wave Snickers on the microphone, man. You think, all right, here we go.
It's going to go well.
So he starts to do it, right? And he's brilliant. He's brilliant. But you can't understand one word of what he's saying. Because his rhythm and his phrasing was fantastic. Honestly, it was just, you got the whole and do we can't understand it.
Geordie accent.
Yes. So in the end, Barnsley had to do it. And the way he does it is, it's quintessentially horrific. But
you knew at the
people
time.
love it.
People loved it.
We like that.
Welcome to Martin Deeson Unloaded with me, your host, Martin Deeson, sponsored by On Beer, alcohol-free beer, scientifically proven to give you a buzz. I'm very excited today because this is my first guest I've ever had who has previously been on Parkinson, which is the mothership of all interview-based chat shows. Also, when I first started thinking about doing this podcast about a year ago, one of the very first names I wrote down was today's guest, and I asked him then, and I'm so pleased it's happening now. To call today's guest an actor is, I think, to do him a disservice because he's been, yes, an actor my entire life. He's been a comedian. He's had 2 top 10 hits. In lots of very funny ways, he's been an entrepreneur, lots of very interesting little businesses over the years. He's written a fantastic book called Grow Up, and I love it because when I look at it on my shelf, it always says, just grow up, Keith Allen, because that's today's guest. It's Keith Allen. Welcome, doing? Keith.
Good to be here.
Good to see you, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
Pleasure. Especially if it's a tube strike.
Especially if it's a tube strike.
And I've got a bad knee.
And you've got a bad knee and you've had to walk it. Yeah. I've got to say, that Parkinson thing, I remember seeing it 20 years ago when it came out. And can you believe it's 20 years ago? And I watched it on YouTube the other day. I've never seen someone say the word cock on Parkinson.
Did I do that?
It was like you had Tourette's. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
Really?
You just kept saying it over and over again.
What did he say?
He didn't say anything, but he had that slightly sort of like a slightly headmasterish sort of face on him. Yeah, it looked a bit. But you were telling that story, which is that I remember I was trying to find this in Loaded magazine. I think you were interviewed by John Wilde in Loaded so long ago. Right. But that was the first time I ever read that story about you being your first ever turn on stage, being as a stagehand with Max Bygraves, and ending up naked on stage.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love that story.
Well, it was a great thing to do, and I remember his final words to me were after I got sacked, "You'll never work in a theatre again, son." I thought, yeah, right.
That didn't turn out to be right, did it?
No, not at all.
Because some people I will remember Max Bygraves, he was just really annoying, was he? My granny used to sing along a Max the whole time.
Well, weirdly enough,
he deserved it.
Weirdly enough, the first record I ever made, I formed a band. I mean, this is back, 80, 81, I think, something like that. Formed a band called the Atoms. We would only play talent contests. That was the deal. And we actually won, and then we disbanded.
So punk at heart.
Yeah. But the tune that we did was Max Bygraves Killed My Mother. And so the B-side was a tune called Beetle Jacket. Anyway, John Peel played it 4 times.
What claim to fame?
I don't know what your audience band is, but for people who don't remember, he's one of the best DJs ever.
I think our audience will remember Peel, of course. Yeah.
And then he would play, and he played it 4 times. And then he would play Pink Toothbrush and Blue Toothbrush or whatever it was, which is a Max Bygraves smash hit.
Yeah, that was his kind of hit.
Yeah.
I think he did the Black and White Minstrel show as well.
Oh, he did.
My Auntie Nora took me to that much to my show.
Oh, my God.
In Victoria. Well, I'm only like 7. I wasn't particularly, politically in tune.
Choice.
I didn't know, but Christ, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. But the reason I did it was I was a stagehand, and it was a Saturday, and we'd done the show. Anyway, at half-time, there's a pub over the road called the Stage Door in Victoria. And this old boy came in, and we were chatting away to him, and he said, "Oh, I'm so excited." Does Max? And we went, yeah. He comes. He's got a penthouse up there. And he comes round in the afternoon, before the show. He walks just round this corner. And he said, yeah, I was his, what was it? I was his foreman as a bricklayer when he was younger. And I haven't seen him since then. And it'd be lovely to say, he said, yeah, mate, yeah, what? So anyway, we watched him. He went out and Max Bygraves came around the corner and he didn't stop. He carried on walking while this old boy was trotting along. And he just thought,
Oh, what a bastard.
Yeah. And that's why that happened.
I didn't know. That's good to know. You can always tell.
You don't think that I'd go on stage naked?
Well, I just thought it was total boredom one afternoon. I remember the first time I heard the story, and I loved it. It was walked out bollock naked. I thought exactly it was like agitprop or something. But isn't that we talked a little for a few minutes before the show, and that is the thing. So I'm a couple of years younger than you, not much, and it's the longevity of your career that I'm going to tell you. The first time I was ever aware, I think, of you was, and you have to correct me on this, but I would think I was about 16, 17. So it would have been 1981, 1982, New Year's Eve, which just shows how there was nothing to do in the 80s on New Year's. I'm just at home, at mum and dad's house, pissed up on really super strength cider, watching TV. And you came on, I got this right? You were a security guard in, I think it was totally live, Channel 4, when they were still adventurous.
Yeah.
You were just solo.
With a dog.
Yeah.
And
I just remember being absolutely transfixed. What was that?
I'll tell you what happened. It was about a month before that happened. I used to go into Channel 4, because we'd done the comic strip. And Jeremy Isaacs was the chairman of Channel 4.
Yeah.
And he got to know me. It was the very early days of Channel 4. And I was sat in Mike Bolland's office, and these offices were in a corridor, and the office walls were all glass. With glass doors, they were all glass. So you could see people walking up and down. And Jeremy walked past. And believe it or not, this is absolutely true. I would go in and see him sometimes on my way to see Mike Bolland or whatever. And he'd say, I'd knock on his door. I'd literally knock on the chairman's door. Say, all right, Jeremy. And he'd go, Keith, do me a favour. Nip over the road and get a bottle of Carver, will you? And I go over the road, get a bottle of Carver. And we sit there and drink Carver. This is what it was like. Right? You cannot believe that.
Now you couldn't get into that office.
Oh, my God. No. And that didn't take long for that to happen, actually. And he walked past and he looked in, he saw me, and he poked his head and he said, Keith, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you up to? And I said, and it was completely off the top of my head, completely. I said, well, who's Channel 4's election night coverage for the, general election, which was in 4 weeks' time? He said, no, nobody. And I said, I could do it. He went, all right, fair enough. Write it down on a bit of paper. Let's see what happened.
So was it the election, not New Year's Eve?
No, it was a general election.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes, it was. It was the general election. That's why I tell you what happened. Anyway, bloody. I came up with this idea. And within 4 weeks, we did it. And the idea was I would be a security guard. And I said to the researchers, get me some bullet points, on the seats that we know people are either going to win or are going to lose, which they did. And then he would have a series of monitors, security monitors around there. And on them, he'd have BBC One, BBC Two,
right,
and ITV. And they were all live. It was election night. So this had to happen at about 10:30 in real time. It was all in real time.
So this is Gogglebox.
This is
concept, isn't it?
This is all real.
You're watching TV
and the story
live,
is that he's got little coat hangers in these security monitors, and he's picking up terrestrial TV. And wherever it went, I didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah.
But if I had the bullet points there, I'd look at ITV and go, right, and he'd come up with something. And of course, woven into that was his philosophy about life and how it's all shit and people are liars, and it was live for two
That's why I remember
hours.
It was transfixing, because it was that kind of like on your edge.
Was so
you
dangerous.
Knew it was live, exactly, on the edge of your seat.
It was insane.
You thought this could go fucking wrong at any moment.
Oh my God.
And it didn't.
No, it didn't.
It was amazing.
God. It was incredible.
So that was after the comic strip, was it? Because my memory was
No. It
it
was the beginnings of the comic
right.
strip, because we did 3 series or something with Channel 4.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess the point of this is it was like that back then.
Yeah.
I remember Thatcher saying, there was this whole thing about clean up or get off the air. And that was in the first 3 or 4 weeks of Channel 4 transmitting, right? So I used to present a show. That's right. That's why I had the big connection in there, is because I was presenting a Channel 4 show called Whatever You Want, which was the first access TV program on Channel 4, where people would write in and say what would they like the programs to be about.
Spell.
Yeah. And then we would make those programs. And what was brilliant about it was the last third of the show was all music, where we used to record at the Ace in Brixton.
Nice.
Which is where I did my first stage dive with the Dead Kennedys. And I would introduce all that from there. So it's it's a very vibrant, happening show. Anyway, she'd say clean up or get off the air. So we would pre-record. I was interviewing people like Tam Diel, Shirley Williams, Tony Benn, John Pilger. Do you know what I mean? And weaving sketches. That's where the Bullshitters was invented. Me and Pete Richardson would do a little 2-minute sketch, and that's where the Bullshitters started.
You can't imagine serious politicians doing that serious politics.
No, but we were
doing that now.
No,
I love that.
Whatever. Anyway, so she said, clean up and get off the air. So I presented the whole show naked, right, in a swivel chair.
It is a theme.
And it was that thing where you cross your legs, that old gag, and you do that, and you can't see anything. Not only that, I sang all the introductions in an operatic style. So it's, now we have an interview with... Just mad. But you could do it, and people like yourselves probably watched it and went, oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
This is such a breath of fresh air,
This is what I mean about the length of the career. And it's also what I mean about when I say that to call you an actor is a disservice. Because in any way denigrating your acting, which has become your main thing you do. But I mean, because I didn't know this, 'cause I'm probably a little bit too young, which is ironic at 61. But you always do open for The Clash as a comedian before any of this stuff.
Oh my God.
So you've always been happening, haven't you?
I opened for Dexys.
Did you?
Oh my God, I did their whole Soul Rebels tour.
Which would be like 1980, 79?
Like
when I was at school. I remember it well.
I did Ireland and did everywhere. Yeah.
Wow. I remember Kevin Rowe taking
the riot shield.
The riot shield.
Yeah, people throwing beer at you and bottles and stuff.
See, this is, we talk about this, the changes in our life. People, I think sometimes, particularly because this show is ostensibly about the 90s, it's not really, it's just a hook to hang it on. But people who are even 5 years younger than me forget the 80s. The 90s didn't happen in isolation. It wasn't just this, let's all go crazy because the Berlin Wall's down. The 80s were something else, man. It was like every time you turn on the telly,
it was incredible.
Miners' strike, Brixton riots, poll tax riots. I mean, it was just the fighting on the streets about the NF being really big.
I was arrested twice. In fact, I got nicked at an NF rally. And on BBC One, we'd just done Paul Jackson, who went on to make The Young Ones.
Yes.
Right? He was the BBC producer. He decided that you should get alternative comedy. I hated the words. But
did you hate it then, that phrase?
No, I hated the phrase. I mean, it came out of myself, Alexei Sale, Tony Allen, Pauline Quirk, Andy de la Tour.
Pauline Quirk?
Yeah.
Really? I forget that. From Birds of a Feather, Pauline Quirk?
No, I've got a name wrong. Pauline someone. I can't remember. Anyway, there was a meeting in a church over in Notting Hill, and it was about trying to set up, because you have to remember, sorry, rambling on.
No, this is
but you have to remember that comedy did not belong, on the cultural map of young people. In the 80s or the late 70s, it didn't exist.
It was something your parents watched,
family, or they went to working men's
TV.
clubs and watched Freddie Starr and stuff like that. There was no such thing. Yeah. You either listened to music or you didn't, or you went to football or you didn't. That was about the sum total of it. So anyway, there was this meeting about, we've got to try to develop a circuit, okay?
Literally like a plan, like a military campaign.
Just look for pubs.
Yeah.
Tony Allen was the major.
This pre-comedy store.
No, the comedy. That's why it happened. The comedy store had just opened,
right? And
we were all there in the first 2 weeks of the comedy store,
right?
So it was looking for pubs where you could put on a comedy night, and that's how this circuit started. And they had a vote, and they said we'll call it alternative comedy, and I said, well.
Really?
I don't want to be an alternative to anything. I want to be it. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So I had no part of it, right? Where was it? Where were we? This is what happened.
Well, no, this is just fascinating because I think to being there at the time, because I've interviewed Alexei Sale before, and he's very interesting about this, but a bit bitter about, because what became alternative comedy was more, other people who came later became more synonymous with it, right? But
Yeah.
you were there literally at the planning meeting that I've
got where I was. Sorry, Martin.
Go on,
I'll get back to it. So, yeah, we put on this show, or Paul Jackson on BBC One, called Boom Boom Out Go the Lights. And it had, what's his name? The guy who used to do Ben Elton, Rick and Aid, Alexi, bloody.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very good, bloody. And Rick did his thing. He wasn't with Aid. He did his thing. He used to do this one act, which he did for 2 years, which used to drive me mad. And I could repeat his act. I could actually do his act. Anyway, I got nicked, right, on this NF thing. And they took the left wing down to Shepherd's Bush, and they took the right wing up to Holborn Nick. So I got put in the van with the right-wing kids up to Holborn Nick, because I was wearing, I'll never forget, I had a red Harrington, I had Doc Martens on, and a pair of combat trousers, but I had a T-shirt that had the SAS insignia across it, but underneath it said Squatters Advisory Service. Right? So I get nicked, and they have an officer who gets you in, asks your name, and develops the charge sheet. Wow. So I'm sitting there waiting. I realise I'm in the wrong place here. So I go up. He says, "Next." I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "Okay, what are you doing here?" I thought,
"He recognised you off the telly."
No, wait a minute. He went, "Weren't you on telly last week?" And I said, yeah, I was, thinking, oh, fuck. And I've got a criminal record, right? So I was a little bit worried about, oof. So he said, yeah, what was it? What was it you did? When I hold a spear near to, I thought, fucking hell, he thinks I'm Rik Mayall. So I did the rest of Rick's act in front of him. And he said, what's your name? I went, Rik Mayall. Rik Mayall got nicked. He had to pay a £50 fine at Southwark Crown Court. And he went to his death not knowing that he had a criminal record.
And he never knew?
No.
Well, I thought you were going to say they threw you in a cell with
no.
Nazis.
No, it was. But I'll tell you what was fascinating about that was when I went to court, right? I don't know how it happened. I think foolishly, they had all the people who were nicked that day were being heard on that day. Anyway, I went down there, and there were a lot of Asian kids there from Southall,
right? Because
you'd had all that screwdriver stuff and all the rest of it.
Peach and all that, yeah.
And they came down to look after us.
Nice.
And I clearly remember thinking, this is really important.
Yeah.
Because they're no longer, them packy cunts and all the rest of it. And then they are now becoming a part of the fabric of our society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and someone you can't fuck with.
Yeah, and it was, I just thought, that's good, man. That is good.
I think if you weren't there, it's so hard to even...
Oh, my God.
You couldn't understand that, the way that alternative scene was in London then, that it would be pub to pub. I remember there was a book, I don't know if you probably remember it, called Alternative London. It was kind of, because there was no internet, you'd literally have, and it would tell you, like, a health food shop in Brixton. I thought of it because you said the Squatters Advisory Service. I was squatting in Hackney. Yeah. And that was a real thing. You'd go to them and they'd say, no, you have a right to get the electricity connected.
I squatted for 6
all
years.
That stuff. Yeah, you had a really good... I remember...
I squatted Eaton Square.
Eaton Square, that's right. I knew it was a good one.
I mean, Jesus Christ, he had a lift. Well, Eaton Square, the most expensive property in London at the time, had a sprung dance floor, ballroom.
A ballroom. A spot with a ballroom.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. And we were there for 2 years.
I mean, which is presumably that's just completely impossible to do now, isn't it? Because that was a great thing.
Well, this is what I say to my daughter and her mates. She's now moved to London. I mean, luckily she's working, but I don't know how kids survive in London, to be honest. And I tried to say, can't you squat? But it seems to me that the law is so heavy-handed.
I think they've made it impossible. Because the late 80s, I remember really clearly, because I was more in Hackney. In Hackney, the Hackney Council had more empty council flats than they had people on the waiting list, because they just wouldn't get around to doing them. It's all bent and corrupt. Yeah. So you just go along, you'd find one that hadn't put a metal door on yet, get in there, and you'd have a minimum of 6 months. Yeah. Because they weren't allowed to chuck you out, and they had to connect electricity, had to connect the gas. A great house.
And we would, me and Tony Allen and my brother, we squatted in, just off the Harrow Road. I mean, look, we squatted all over the place. But we kept it clean. Do you know what I mean? We looked after the property, and it was, great days.
Great days. So then I suppose that's what projected you into like national consciousness would be the comic strip, which I think it's one of those things. I mean, everyone remembers the Fast Show, which obviously in the 90s, but the comic strip was just brilliant, and everyone watched it because they weren't that. It was films, so they weren't.
That was
it weren't every week, were they? They were short series.
You had a 8-part series or whatever it was.
But they were long, and it was brilliant.
They were 40 minutes. They were nearly an hour. So.
Yeah.
But nobody had ever seen anything like it before. They didn't exist. I
suppose that's right.
Not on film.
It's alternative comedy on screen.
Well, they were films. I mean, respect to Peter Richardson, it was all his idea and his concept. And again, Jeremy Isaacs, he's the one who went, no, let's do it. And it's a risk. You didn't know if it was going to work or not. You didn't. But look, man, we were so lucky. We had the awfulness of Thatcher, which kind of, it got people alert and alive and kind of great. We've got an enemy now.
I suppose that's right.
Do you know what I mean? We've got an enemy. We can identify together against that. And then that kind of permeated all areas of culture, especially television with Channel 4, all at the same time. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Within a 6-year period, you'd had punk, you'd had Channel 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And you'd had Thatcher. Now, you put all those together, my God, that is a pretty volatile time.
And then once you got through that period of sort of massive social unrest, and when she finally went, but then you also had the acid house ecstasy coming in at the end of that decade. We can
talk about that later.
And then it just when it kicked off. I mean, it just went insane. That was that's probably the big change, I think.
Well, no, it was.
Something changed dramatically, didn't it, around that time from.
What you mean, the 90s?
Well, the 80s to the 90s. It went from feeling like you were like in the opposition, you were downtrodden, you were like, you say you're pushing back against something.
Kind of, you had Blair.
Yeah, but not to the end of the 90s,
Yeah, but whatever, I can't remember. No, but I clearly remember rave, that culture, the dance culture. Because I was in Manchester at the time, in 88, 89, 90.
So you were in Hacienda?
Oh, God, I was there. This is how I got to know Tony Wilson. And, I just knew all these people. Again, I was just lucky.
You've always been there. You're like Zany.
It's really weird.
You've always been at the scene where it's really happening.
Weird, But I remember, meeting the guy from 808 State before he became 808 State. And watching what happened to him and how important he became to, that period.
So what were you doing in Manchester? Living there or
No, doing
there?
series.
Doing series, right?
Yeah. I did 3 series back to back, different ones, all up in Manchester. And that's where it was all kicking off, But then 1990 happened. Again, I just have to make it clear. I don't know whether, do you broadcast this?
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember the thing about 1990 was the World Cup, right, and Gazza. And there was a guy at the FA called, I can't remember his first name, Bloomfield. And he was in charge of selling the idea of the World Cup, right? Which meant that he had control over the England World Cup song, which previously, we all know what they were like. Anyway, he was a massive New Order fan. And he got hold of Tony Wilson and said, look, I know it's a bit left field here, but would you be interested in... Of course, Tony being Tony went, yeah. Of course. But the band know fuck all about football.
They're not into football
No,
anymore.
not really, no. But I, by that time, knew Tony quite well, And he knew that, I love football. So he asked me if I would write, the words for
such a right place, right time thing.
Yeah, but it was, I nearly blew it completely because they sent me the tune on a cassette. And, at the time, I was just off my tits most of the time then. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I remember being at Legends, which
of course. Yeah.
Paul Dennis. And on the Friday night, my missus had gone away for the weekend. On the Friday night, thinking, fucking, I've got to go up to Peter Gabriel's place,
what
Real World. to record this thing with New Order. And I didn't really know the band. I knew Tony really well. Anyway, I had another night on the piss.
But had you written your lyrics by this point?
Oh, no, hang on a minute. So I get to Legends on the Saturday, and it's like, fucking hell. 2:00 in the morning, staggering home. And they think I've got to be up at 7 in the morning to get a cab down to train. Getting a cab to go to the station. Oh, I've left the cassette. And I had one of these Walkmans, the Walkman. Yeah. Picked that up, sat on the train, off my tits. I'm sorry, but yeah. And listened to the tune for the first time, I think. And started to write down what I thought would be rather good. And I had it on a piece of paper until very recently, actually. And it was, E is for England. England starts with E. We'll all be smiling when we're in Italy.
Because you've been up on the Beatles all night. It seemed logical.
So I got to the studio and Tony's gone, oh my God, there's no way they're going to accept that. Bloody. There was a German producer there. And, I wrote a few things down during the day and yeah, it kind of happened, but it wasn't right. And they had to re-record it. Not that my words were particularly bad, but there wasn't a right chorus there and the producer was wrong. Anyway, about 3 weeks later, they say we're going to Led Zeppelin's studio in Henley to do it with the England team. Gazza, Johnny Barnes, Waddle, Steve McMahon, I think Anderson, and Peter Beardsley.
And you're still with the E is for England lyrics?
No. I've written some stuff by now.
Because I think I remember reading that the FA went, no, too much.
It was that vibe. Tony had sorted out.
Yeah.
And anyway, we got in there and Barney wasn't there. And they'd started, to put the backing track down and stuff like that. And the England guys were there and they're supposed to be doing the chorus of, we're playing for England, blah, blah. And Barney hasn't turned up. So Tony said, we better go and get him. He's in a hotel, in Henley by the bridge. And we go down to pick him up and he's dead. He has a quick, gets in the car and proceeds to puke into a bag. And this is in Tony's Jag, his famous Jag. So we're sitting there and I'm still trying to work out some words, right? I said, can you think of anything that arrives with arrivederci? It's about the only Italian word I knew. Bloody. Anyway, so we get back to the studio and Stephen Hague, who's producing it, has come along and I've written this line to say, arrivederci, it's one on, because if you listen to it, it's all drug referenced. It's
I need to listen to it again.
Right. You've got to hold and give and get round the back. And there's a kind of, homosexual double entendres in it. It's all in there,
That was a big part of your thing at the time, wasn't it? A kind of like the subtext of homoerotic in British culture was a big
that was a big
for
thing with me. And I'll tell you a story about that later on. So anyway, we get there and he says, we've got this, but we need something here. And I've got to say, fair play to him. It was Craig Johnston was there for no particular reason other than because he's Australian. He was mates. He played for Liverpool. He was mates with Beardo, and he said you need a rap here. Huh. It was his idea. And then I wrote that
the most famous rap in British history.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wrote that rap in the studio on the day, and on the day getting them to sing it was just hilarious. Anyway, none of them can do it. They're absolutely useless, right? Gazza plots up and he's late and he comes in, he's got 3 bottles of champagne. He's driven in a Merc, an England courtesy car Merc, proceeded to down 3 bottles of shampoo over the afternoon and gets up to Gazza, it's your go, give it a go. And pop cover on the microphone. First thing you hear him go, Beardo's your wife, Snickers on the microphone, man. You think, all right, here we go.
This is going to go well.
So he starts to do it, right? And he's brilliant. But you can't understand one word of what he's saying. Because his rhythm and his phrasing was fantastic. Honestly, it was just, you got the whole and we can't understand it.
Geordie accent.
Yes. So in the end, Barnsley had to do it. And the way he does it is, it's quintessentially horrific.
But you knew at the time.
People love it.
People loved it.
We're like that.
It was so bad, and is still so bad. I remember in the video, because you're in the video with him, aren't
Behind
you?
him.
You're behind him going, this is so bad. But people, that's what I mean by you being at these, one of these Zelig type characters, being at these moments in British cultural history. I was scribbling down here because in the 80s, the comic strip, the yob was a really defining thing in British culture because it kind of brought together skinhead culture and also yuppie culture.
Yeah.
But people who remember it's sort of like an ad agency guy who's
People
a
don't realise either. Too. So Derek Jarman, right? Amazing.
Derek Jarman.
Right? Yeah, he's in it.
Is he?
Yeah.
How come?
He's one of the guys in Old Compton Street where he goes, "Hi, Patrick," to me.
Oh, brilliant.
That's Derek Jarman.
And now a word from our sponsor. Like a lot of us who lived through the 90s, I tried to keep my drinking in check. I've had my sober stretches and my less sober ones. One thing that helps is alcohol-free beer. But let's be honest, if there's one thing wrong with alcohol-free beer, there's no buzz. That's where On Beer comes in. It's a non-alcoholic beer packed with botanicals and herbs designed to give you what the makers call a feel-good lift. They say a bottle or two feels like you're just tucking into your second pint. And in my experience, they're not far wrong. I was drinking On Beer before they sponsored my podcast. In fact, I was the one who approached them. So if you want to try something new that gives you a bit of a buzz, take On Beer out for a spin and use this discount code, Martin15, to get a buzzing 15% off. Stay sober. And if you can't stay sober, stay buzzy. Because when you look at your filmography, it's surprising. You don't remember it all. You're in Shallow Grave in 94, which is, of course, is Danny Boyle's breakthrough movie. Yeah. Then in Trainspotting, playing the same character. I didn't realise that Danny Boyle has said it's the same person. The guy who dies in the flat there is wearing the same clothes in Trainspotting. I love a little reference.
And I said I'd do it if I can keep the suit.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it was a Kenzo suit. It was a Kenzo suit that I wore in Shallow Grave. I said, I'll do it if I can keep that suit.
Still got it?
Yeah.
Have you? I loved that film when it came out. It was great. Just that seemed like the start of something as well. And obviously, Trainspotting is Trainspotting. And then to end that decade, what a bracket, to end that decade on Twin Town, which is
great film.
What a great film, which your brother made, of course, famously.
Yeah.
And You Are the Mushroom Man, which people to this day.
I know.
I was chatting to my dentist last Saturday morning. So we're doing this, I'm interviewing Keith, and he goes, The Mushroom Man from Twin Town. And you did a sort of follow-up to that, which I really enjoyed in lockdown.
Oh, yeah. Called
La Cha-Cha?
La Cha-Cha, yeah. Cha-Cha. I mean, insane. It was just insane that we all just had to camp there. And we just camped there for 8 weeks and got on.
But illegally in lockdown.
No, it wasn't. No, there was...
One of those little windows.
Yeah, you could do it. It was one of those you could, but you couldn't leave the bubble.
Right, that was the set.
So you could have all those people there, but you had to stay in that bubble.
If people haven't seen it, it's a great film. I really like it. It's about an aging population of bohemians and hippies and whatever, travellers, whatever, in a caravan park in Wales. It's fantastic. And it's all shot on iPhones, which is remarkable because you wouldn't know. Just look at it. And then 24-hour party people as well. I mean, sort of defining... a film about that.
I mean, Winterbottom still doesn't talk to me.
Why? Go on. Oh, spill the beans.
I spent the night before. We were all staying in the Britannia Hotel. And I remember sitting around the piano with Kylie Minogue, name dropping, twatted as usual, talking shy. And then going up to bed, far too late. A knock on the door, and I hid under the bed. I mean, it's such an it's the only time I've ever done it, actually. I'm not proud of it at all, but I didn't go in.
Oh, you missed the day
filming. Reschedule. Yeah, it was awful. I don't think he's ever forgiven me, to be honest. I don't blame him.
Because what I know you enough to know that's not actually like you, even though your public image is very much like that. Weirdly, you take. I mean, there's a phrase I think you don't. I don't see you take your career that seriously in a Ponzi way, but you take acting very seriously.
Yes, I do, yeah.
You give it.
I take.
But you've changed as well.
Yeah, but I've always. I see art in anything, and I think one of the prerequisites of anything artistic, if you like, is it's got to have belief. You've got to have belief, and you can judge things differently if there's truth in it. Do you know what I mean? And I just think I do think about what I do.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it as best as I possibly can. But the caveat to that is I'm not ambitious.
Right. That's what I mean by not taking the career seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's because I don't believe in having had a career. To go back to something you pointed out slightly earlier, which is, funny enough, I was doing this musical last year or the year before, Rehab, and Jodie Steele, who played my secretary in it. She's a fantastic musical theatre performer. And she's just sat down and says, why are you so famous? How did this happen? No, I seriously had to think about it, right? And I did think about it. And in fact, the reason why, people know of me is because I have been generationally around at very key moments. And it's really interesting because, in the 80s, 70s you had punk, but nobody knew who I was then. But the 80s you had Channel 4 starting. Then the comic strip, and then you come to the end of the 80s. I've done a couple of, I can't remember what I did, but then you have World in Motion. So already I've got, over that 10 years, half a generation. Do you know what I mean? You go into the 90s, you've got, God, what did I do?
We've got those movies, I
Well, you've got the movies.
Then, of course, you've got Fat Les comes up as well.
Yeah, you've got those movies, which are, Shallow Grave, Train Spotting. They're all
massive,
huge, culturally important things. And I just happen...
They're not South Bank show cinema.
Exactly. I happen to be there.
Yeah.
But I've taken this generation of people, like people who remember me from the 80s. Well, of course, they're 18 years older by the time Fat Les comes out. But they've got kids themselves now who are 18. So suddenly you've got the dad who knows you from there.
Yeah. You've
got their kids who know you from Fat Les, and the dad knows you from World in Motion. Then you go into the 2000s and suddenly you're looking at, Robin Hood. I was the sheriff of Nottingham.
I'm very aware. Yeah.
No, but these are huge
I know.
things.
So Adam, the producer, he's off today, but Adam, the producer, is definitely Gen Z. Every guest I've had so far, Irvin Welsh, Kathy Lloyd, John Niven, he has never heard of them.
Right.
I go, Keith Allen. He goes, Sheriff of Nottingham. And I'm like, how many touchstones have you hit?
And look, I am lucky.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's never me planning out a career or a course. I'm just very lucky to have been around at that time, and it's because I'd forgotten, you watch how people respond to you. I remember years ago walking down back to Alex James's flat. He lived in Soho with Michael Barrymore. I was doing a series with Michael Barrymore, and we're walking back. And Alex, I'm sorry, I sound like a name dropper, but I really don't mean to.
This is what we like.
Alex,
I'm an ex-journalist. Name dropping is what I do.
He said, right, let's have a bet. And we went, go on, what? He said, let's see who gets the most attention between Groucho's and my flat.
You or Barrymore?
Barrymore, hands down.
Of course.
Absolutely hands down.
And this is post the whole public debacle with Barrymore.
No, before that.
Before. So he's mainstream.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous being in his company.
I can imagine.
Insane.
I mean, that's what we got. I mean, we've got to touch upon that as well. That period when... what was that like? Because obviously,
I'll just go back on one thing, which I'd love to clear up. Is you said that my occupation with homoeroticism.
Oh, yes.
I'll tell you what that was born out.
Go on.
I remember very clearly being on anti-sus marches, right? Being on Rock Against
Stop
Racism, marches, So, and I lived in Notting Hill. I lived on the front line. I lived next to the Mangrove. I had a pirate radio station in the basement next door to the Mangrove. So,
of course you did.
I lived in Notting Hill, and I knew everyone.
Yeah.
Mikey Dredd, I knew them all. And we were battling together, this thing that I was saying about Thatcher. But the one thing I noticed was the extraordinary level of homophobia amongst black youth.
Okay. Right.
And I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. So I became the first homosexual Rastafarian called Sex Boots Dread. And not a lot of people realise until fairly recently that I am Sex Boots Dread.
This is a stage thing or a street thing? Or
No, I recorded it. I'll Google it. Try and find it. In fact, try and play it. It's unbelievable.
I will look up.
Oh my God.
Because it was a thing. Because there was there was the bullshitters, which was because
that was deliberately.
homoerotica was because Britain was so homophobic.
But let me just finish.
Go on, sorry, go on.
So I just thought it was right.
Yeah.
That that should be brought to people's attention, because when I used to work at I stage managed the stage at the ICA, right on the Mall.
Yeah.
And I remember we put on a lunchtime show by a gay theatre company called Gay Sweatshop. Unbelievable. And I was a kid. And they did this play. I can't remember what it was called, but it was Because It Was There, something like that. I can't remember. But I remember being absolutely, because, I'd been a fucking yob. And my idea of gays was like, they're all a bit queer. I didn't really know any gay people. Yeah. And I was living in Wales, and, queers were queers, all that kind of vibe. And then I saw this play, and it changed my whole attitude about homosexuals, right? And it was incredible. It was one of the most moving things I've ever seen. And from that moment on, it was like, fuck, I've had it wrong here. I've just had this wrong. And then what happened was, through people like Peter Tatchell and actually Derek Jarman and oh God, what was his name? He got murdered. He was the director of the theatre company. I realised that in much the same way that black youth were empowered, right, by demonstrations, by going, no, that the gay community was becoming politicized, and they were so powerful. And I just loved them for it. I fucking loved them for it. So I thought any opportunity I can get where I can put it in, I'll put, sorry to use that phrase, but I will do that,
Because it was a funny time, because I think because society was so homophobic, there was a big undercurrent of straight men, and they were in things like the police and stuff like that, who were as identifying as straight, but who were clearly gay.
Oh God,
there was so many. I mean, I remember so many times going in like sort of public loos when I was relatively young, and someone who clearly was not out and gay, sort of propositioning you. Yeah. So there was a big undercurrent in society, the closeted men.
Yeah.
And you did that, right? You did the gay Northern.
Oh, I did Northern Industrial Gay, Jerry Arkwright.
Northern Industrial Gay. Just makes me laugh.
Fuck it, I opened for New Order at Royal Festival Hall as Jerry Arkwright. And they knew, because by then I knew them, and Bernard knew, he thought it was hilarious. And all the security jumped on stage and tried to throw me off, because they just thought it was this insane gay bloke in a leather posing pouch, a leather hat, and a 48-inch Stilson spanner. But I opened for the Stranglers at Wembley, got bottled off.
This is what I mean. It's an insane career. I mean, that's what, when I started, I was touching on that. You've been active in 5 or 6 decades in a row, but also what I think is weird and an amazing trick to pull off. It's not. I know it's not. I know, knowing you, I know it's not a trick you pulled off. Is to be you've always present as an outsider. Yeah. You are an outsider. You're always counter positional. You're genuinely subversive. You're like Ken Campbell. That.
Oh yeah, well,
did you work with Ken? Yeah, I mean, I just thought he was amazing. Yes.
Well, I bought his puppy off him. He had a dog called Werner, so I called the pup Von Braun. And I worked with Ken, was brilliant, because I built the sets for Illuminatus.
Didn't know.
There you go, with Bill Drummond. There you go. It's weird.
You just sit at the middle of this.
It's just weird.
It is actually quite weird.
There's a woman called Mavis Taylor, and I was going out with her at the time. And in fact, we were up in Liverpool, and we put on this show called, what Ken did, The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, with Jonathan Hyde and Bill Nye.
There's a radio version of that I've been listening to. It's really good.
Really?
Yeah,
right,
yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
It was amazing. Anyway, I built the sets, and I never forget getting on stage one night with Holly Johnson, Paul Rutherford, Jane Casey, who was big in Japan, Bill Drummond, and the lad from the Lightning Seeds. And we formed a band for one night and did one song in a pub.
Like a super group.
Yeah, it was really weird. Bill phoned me up once. He said, "You realise that you were in a band where 3 members have written songs for their national football team?" Because I didn't know Bill Drummond had written one for the Scottish team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Bill, KLF, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but anyway, I was the show opened in Matthew Street in Liverpool and transferred to the ICA, which is where I'd been a stage manager. And anyway, I had this, Ken had given me this little part as a waiter. And, all I had to do was open the door, walk out with a tray of drinks, put it on the table and leave. And that was
This
it.
is one of your first ever acting roles, stage roles.
Yeah.
Presumably. Yeah.
So it kind of developed while Ken wasn't there. And one night I come out and I've done it and I've put in a little twirl and give a little, stupid
Born
mug
show
and
off.
stuff. And in the darkness, you hear, "Get off the stage, you cunt." And it was Ken.
Brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
See, I think it's remarkable to have because no one can ignore the fact you've done all these sort of what I think of quite straight things, BBC period dramas, Dickens. You're always doing that sort of stuff. You're often sporting some outrageous facial hair because you're in Great Expectations, and yet you've maintained the outsider status. Is it going too far? Because I was looking also at your childhood, which is great in your book, Grow Up, where you say that I think apart from the army and a psychiatric hospital, unless you tell me otherwise, you've been in sort of 5 of the great institutions of Britain.
Yeah. A
public school, boarding school, a state school, DC, detention centre,
and
Borstal and prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole, and that you said something in there about actually you'd think, oh God, that's why he's a rebel, he hates it. No, about loving it.
Yeah.
About being in there and sticking it to the man.
I love institutions. I mean, it sounds an awful thing to say.
It does sound weird.
But I exist in institutions because I love finding a way to undermine them and finding a way to make it kind of bearable on your terms. Do you know what I mean? A bit like Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, if you want a reference. I'm not saying I'm like that at all, but I always found, put it this way, they never ground me down.
Yeah.
Because I could turn it into something else. And Borstal was brilliant for me.
I heard you say that.
It was brilliant.
And very different from detention centre because
my God.
DC reminds me of that Ray Winstone film, Scum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was terrific, right?
I mean, the most useless waste of time on everybody's
This was
part.
Thatcher's short, sharp shot.
Well, yeah, but it was born out of the British Army, about being in the hot house or whatever they called it. And a lot of the screws were ex-army, ex-military.
Right.
And they brought that kind of culture to it. And it was hot. It was just shit.
Yeah. How long were you in there for?
3 months. You either got 3 months or 6 months.
Right.
And it was just horrible. It was genuinely horrible. But Borstal, I went to an open Borstal, by the way. I mean, there were places like Portland. They were like glorified detention centres. I met people who were in there. It was an entirely different experience. Whereas in Borstal, I met a man who became he was like a mentor for me. Not after I left, we didn't meet up afterwards, but it's how he was like while I was there. He was extraordinarily encouraging. He could spot things that you could do. And he would talk. And he was, Mr. Dennis, his name was. And I was a very, very sporty person, And I played football. I ran. I canoed. I was the first person to be placed on a CSV, Community Service Volunteers project, from a Borstal, the first one. And they let me out after a year. And I got seconded to Bethnal Green, to a community centre there.
What was a CSV?
Community Service Volunteers. Where people go overseas to help in villages.
Oh yeah.
They help in
right.
projects. You become a volunteer.
Yeah.
And it had been worked out by a guy called Campbell Lamerton. His brother played rugby for Scotland, and he was the head of one of the houses there. And he'd spotted it and said, look, you could do this, bloody blah, blah. And I did. And I built an adventure playground out of all the old timber from the Watney's brewery in, what's that famous market in the East End?
I suppose, wasn't it Romford or something?
No. It's where all the Indian restaurants are.
Oh,
Brick Lane.
Brick Lane.
Yeah, it was the old brewery.
Oh, the old brewery, which is
and built this thing there. What was I saying? Oh, yeah.
CSV.
But yeah, Borstal. It was, I did that, right? And it afforded me the opportunity to do that. But what I did was you were given a choice of courses. You could do bricklaying, plastering, car mechanics. This is incredible. It was incredible. And I elected to do the education course because I'd left school at 15 and a quarter, illegally, funnily enough. I thought, I'll have a go at this, And I got 6 O-levels.
And in Borstal?
Yeah, in Borstal.
So that was probably the turning point, wasn't it? Because that's what got you into Cardiff.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
What was mad about it was I came out and this is so silly, but it's so true. I was just sitting in my parents' house thinking, God almighty, do you know what? If people ask me what I do, I could say, I'm a student. And it was just the idea of saying, I'm a student, just like, so I became a student. And in those days, they gave you money to go to college.
These are the days, not only
you got a grant.
Never mind the tuition fees, they gave you maintenance.
They gave you money.
To live off. Yeah.
They gave you money.
And then you could sign on in the summer. I remember it well.
Oh, man. I used to get, when I was at drama college, I was getting paid by our county council. During the winter time, I get a job in the steelworks. It's fucking brilliant. I broke my foot in the steelworks, right, during the winter break. And I got sick money for 6 weeks afterwards. I was going back to college. Believe me, I've paid my taxes all my life. I have no problem saying this kind of shit. But yeah, it did. It meant that I could take O-levels. I became a student. And then I met the guy who became my mentor in life, David Williams. He suggested that I went to a drama college, got expelled, obviously.
Obviously. What were you expelled for drama college for?
I became, why I have no idea, I became the head of the student union. And I had a car. I had 2 cars, actually, as a student. You believe that? I had a Morris 1000 with a Riley 1600 engine in it. And I had another Morris 1000, which was a runner, but I could use it as spares, like wheels and all the rest of it. And I said to the headmaster, we've got all these car parking spaces here, and you lot can park, but there's no parking for us. Not many of us had cars. I said, how about giving us a couple of bays? You know what I mean? And they went, no. And I said, well, without us, you wouldn't be here. So it seems only fair. And they wouldn't have it. So I went in on a Sunday and jacked my car up, took all the wheels off and left it on
in the parking space.
In the headmaster's parking space. Out.
That seems a bit harsh.
No. I was, what do they call it? When you're not expelled, you're whatever.
Asked to leave as well.
Yeah,
I went to school.
Basically, I didn't go back.
I was asked to leave.
Yeah, I didn't go back.
And what about prison? What was that like and which one were you in?
No, prison was ridiculous. But it was, to get back to the Borstal, it was good for me.
The Borstal was good, yes.
And I had great fun.
Because they rehabilitated you.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
It was just brilliant fun. Anyway, years later, I smashed all the mirrors in the Zanzibar club.
That's what prison was for, which Zanzibar became the Groucho.
What kind of? It was the same people were involved.
Same people, remember it, yeah.
And then nobody was there, and I wasn't drunk.
So it's just a fit of primal
No,
rage.
they wouldn't serve me a drink because I wasn't a member. Who am I?
Bastards.
What do you mean? I've been here all night with Robbie Coltrane, funnily enough, and he'd gone home. There was only 2 of us left. Me and a woman sat a bit further along. And I took my coat off and I said, look, Dan, can you keep your eye on that a minute? And don't worry, nobody will get hurt. And the one went behind me with a stall and ridiculous.
Where you got this reputation from, I can't imagine.
No, it's just stupid.
So you smashed the place up and got sent down?
I just did the mirrors behind the bar, bloody bugger. And then left and walked home and got phoned up the next day because they'd found out who I was through Robbie. And I said, I'll pay the fine. It was 1,500 quid, I think. I'll pay that. But no, a policeman, his name was PC Holland, who I found out was hated by all the police at Holborn Nick, funnily enough, because I lived opposite the British Museum. And it became a police case, not the Zanzibar's case. They weren't pressing charges.
Oh, yes. I remember that difference myself. Yes.
Yeah. So I had to go.
Doesn't matter if they drop charges, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I had to go to court. I remember saying to Alison, my wife, right, I'll be back at 2, then I'll pick the kids up. Of course, went to. Oh, funnily enough,
you already had the kids. Oh, that would have gone down badly.
Yeah. And they were at nursery off Oxford Street, and I said I'll be back this afternoon. And of course, I wasn't. I got sent down. But I think 3 months.
So you weren't even remand. You weren't even out on remand. You were straight to court.
No, straight to court, and I went from court.
See ya. Bye.
But it was ridiculous.
Where were you? Wandsworth.
No. Oh God. What was it, off Caledonian Road?
Oh, Pentonville.
Yeah. The dirtiest prison in Europe at the time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what it was called, the dirtiest prison in Europe. And the reason why was all the street people, the old tramps, they'd all do a little minor offence and then they'd all elect to go and
get bed for the night.
Just as,
for 3
exactly.
weeks. Yeah.
I get set. But anyway, I go to court and I didn't have representation. They give you a court solicitor, right? And that week, Georgie Best and Stacey Keach had been sent down, right? George for, I think, drink driving, something
so,
like that.
yeah.
And Stacey Keach for cocaine.
Right.
And it was that week. So I get in there and this guy comes up and he says, oh yeah, I'm bloody. And he went, oh my God, it's you, isn't it? Because the comic strip had been out. He'd seen the comic.
Yes, you're a well-known face by now.
Yeah. So I said, look, do me a favour, just
keep it
just play it all down. I'm really sorry. I've said that I will pay. They've told me how much it cost, just nice and simple. So I go into court and I sit in court in the public gallery. And who's in there, right, in the witness thing? Ken Campbell. And he's just there and I'm in the public and there's no one else in the court apart from me, Ken Campbell, and the judge. And Ken is a witness for, there was this show called the something Shakespeare Company. It's two people used to do
all Shakespeare in about half an hour.
Yes.
Rapid Shakespeare or something it was called. I remember
One of them had been caught naked up on Hampstead Heath. He'd had a turn, and Ken was there as his
character witness.
Of course, Ken kept looking around, going, "Whoa, what are you doing now?" And I could see the judge looking up, going, "Hang on." So just the idea that I knew this madman, because Ken always looked mad.
That hasn't helped.
Bloody well. So they call lunch. So I go out lunchtime. I said to the guy, listen, I'm up there, take it easy. Goes in, my lord, my client is famous for, and I'm like, what?
Don't say that.
Yeah, and he goes through, all the comic strip stuff. His career will be, and I could see the judge looking at me going, oh yeah.
Yeah. The judge is going,
yeah, we've done Stacey Keach. He thinks he's above it.
Exactly.
We've done Georgie Best, and you think you're going to get away
come
with
in
it.
here.
Exactly.
It's the last thing.
Yes. Oh my God.
I'll tell you what I was in, happened a few times, but I was in court in Dublin at one point, which didn't go well. And I turned around, I had one person come to support me, and look, it's Howard Marks, who's just got out from like 100-year sentence in the States.
Luck of the draw.
I ended up in Mountjoy. But so how does it go? Do you go from smashing up Zanzibar, the precursor of the Groucho Club, to being the Dark Lord of? I mean, that was a funny period in the 90s. You and Damien Hirst and Alex James were kind of living in the Groucho Club. People would come in the morning, and you'd been up all night, naked in the bar at times.
There was that.
But
right, you have to remember that I was an actor, and an actor's life is feast or famine. It is.
Yeah.
You couldn't go into a boozer. Also, what had happened was Groucho felt so bad that I had been sent down.
Right.
That they gave me free life membership.
Right. In a perverse move.
It's great.
After he's put all the windows in.
Today. Of course, nobody knows who I am. There's a girl. Yes. Do I have to sign? Well, what's your name? Keith Allen. Means nothing to them. They go, well, are you a member? I said, well, I'm a free life member, actually. And they go, oh.
They've actually put you on the computer?
Yes, something like that. Because it works.
Brilliant.
What was I saying?
You're an out of work actor.
Yeah. The thing for me about the Groucho Club was not that I particularly wanted to be a member of a private members club or anything like that, but it meant that I could go and drink and I could go and eat without any money, because I could run up a tab in there as a member.
It's all done on credit,
and then you can pay it off.
When you get a job.
Absolutely. Which is, the fact that I was running up a tab because I was there 5 nights a week is frankly ridiculous.
Was there not a weak link in this theory? Because I suppose the Groucho started in the 90s. It was always popular, but it just became more and more and more. And by the end, I remember very clearly, you were an actor and a writer, all sorts of things that you are, but also you're doing all that right in front of the producers and the directors.
You know what? It's what I've said. That has so impacted
because your career.
Quotation marks.
That's when your image became.
Career. But my angle always was, if you can't misbehave in your own members club, where can you misbehave?
It's a theory.
But, well, it is, But unfortunately, I didn't factor in that there were the very producers and directors who I was hoping to get a job of. And I could argue, I'm a very professional actor. I am. And I'm amongst directors. I think I'm known for it,
Yeah.
But there's this fucking idiot off his tits on coke, banging out shit tunes on the piano.
Thinking, should we give this guy a job?
Oh, yes.
He'll be like this on set. Little they know.
Exactly. Excuse me. But yeah,
because the story on Parkinson, I've got to come towards the end with the story from Parkinson, was just brilliant, which is that you'd been in there with Damien Hirst and Alex James all night, decided, just because you've been off your tits and you're up all night, those ideas seem funny, let's do fucking trousers off day.
Yeah. Oh.
In comes Stephen Fry for a breakfast.
Yeah, put it on a plate.
Put the cock on the plate and serve it to Stephen Fry. Sir, you order the sausage. To which Stephen Fry replies,
not a chipolata.
Thank you very much. Hey.
Oh god!
So that's, I mean, that that dichotomy between the Keith Allen image, the wild man, who in fact, as we were saying beforehand, and I know you hardly drink, don't get involved that much these days with the old shenanigans. Look incredibly healthy for a man who's 10 years older than me.
73 this year.
73, which is something else I do want to ask you about as well, because you did me a real favour about 8 years ago. So when I was 53, then against all the odds, my wife had tried to become pregnant for 20 years. Never happened. She's not as old as me, but she's not, she's not a 20-year-old either. She got pregnant. And I was losing my shit. I'm like, I'm 53 and I'm going to have a baby. This is going to be I'm doing all the maths in my head. I'm like, that means that when I'm 70, she'll only be 17. Oh, God, this is... And then I opened the paper, Relative Values, in the Sunday Times magazine. It's you and your daughter.
Yes.
And I had no idea. And she was 17 and you were 70. And she sounded so happy about it. Because that's my worry. Not that I'd be unhappy, but she was. And she sounded so happy about it. It was a great quote in there where she said, my dad may be the oldest dad at the school gates, but I tell you what, he could take any of the other dads in a fight. And I just thought that was great. So that's gone well, right? Being a dad at our age.
But that's really interesting, Martin, because, you would worry about that if, in 1960, okay, you were 70 years of age, so you've been born in 1890, all right?
Jesus, yes.
Well, no, just imagine it.
Yeah.
And you had a kid, right, who would be 17 in 1977, by which time you're 77. Well, that wouldn't work because of, your cultural references are so distant. Whereas now, the reason why, not the reason, but one of the reasons that it does work is because we share cultural references. Do you know what I mean? Our generation, or certainly my generation, my kids will listen to my music. Do you know what I mean? So there are things, and we can identify with what they're going through. We live in that world where we have access to each other. Do you see what I mean?
Really good point.
As an older parent and a younger child, it works.
Yeah,
it works. Which I think is probably the first time in history, to be honest.
I'd not thought about that. That's so true, because my dad, I think, I can't remember exactly. I think he was 30-something when I was born, and we just seem from different generations.
No, of course, absolutely.
But me and my daughter, I love doing really... So I've now got, because she's only 7, so music... Well, her mum's a DJ, so she's totally into all the music her mum plays. I do things like I'll show her the Wombles. On YouTube, which came out in 1974 or something, because it's great TV, and that has bridged the gap. But that was a real help. And there was one other interview you did as well that I really liked over the years. I remember it said, it was a totally different one. It said, Keith Allen, when you happiest? And you'd think many people would have thought it'd be, when I'm falling out of a bar at 3, which I know is completely not true. And you said, the happiest I ever am is when I'm getting up really early in the morning at sunrise, got a completely clear head, and I'm going off to do something important. And I thought that was in a bit of my more party animal phase. I read that, and I thought, do you know what, isn't he right? When am I happiest? When I'm shit-faced? No, I'm actually happiest. I'm getting up, doing something, which for you is mainly going on to set. Well, so those two things have been very...
Mowing and trimming.
Mowing and trimming. Have you got a big lawn?
3 acres.
I've got 3 acres. It's hard work, isn't it?
Don't. Listen, you're all right. 13, what are you, 10 years younger than me?
I'm 61 in about a week.
Well, there you go. You're 12 years younger than me. That 12 years, when I was 61, I could run around the fucking garden. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, Jesus Christ.
Honestly, it's the last couple of years have taken out of me.
You wait. I mean, I'm not going to be a down on it, but my dad used to say, right? He used to say, son, when you get to my age, the bin men come twice a week.
What does that mean? Because it comes around so fast.
Because yes, the bin men only come once a fortnight, don't
but
they?
It just feels
when
like
you're old, you think they come twice a week.
So...
That's how fast it goes. Isn't that a brilliant saying?
That is a great
saying. It's so brilliant.
And it's so true.
I know.
I tell you, having had 2 daughters 35 years apart, my big daughter is 35, my little one is 7. First one, I had her forever. This one,
you wait.
Keith Allen. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
That was lovely.
That was great. Me too. Nice one. Thank you. That was great.
Pleasure.